What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today I'm talking about whether or not we're starting to see a cool down of the vinyl record market. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So the vinyl revival has been going on since around 2008 or so. And every year we've seen increases in record sales year after year. But over the last several years, everyone keeps asking, when is this bubble going to burst? And as we've seen record prices increase a lot over the last couple of years, it seems like it's something that's eventually going to happen. It's almost inevitable. So over the last couple of years, I've been really trying to pay attention to what the vinyl record sales numbers or what the revenue numbers look like coming from the industry. Over the last several years, I've really relied on Illuminate, the information that they put out, because they really seem to have their finger on the pulse of the market, and they try to be as transparent as they could with the information they had. So the Recording Industry Association of America just released their mid-year revenue report and showed that overall revenue is up for the music industry, with revenue across all formats hitting a new high of $5.6 billion so far, with paid subscriptions driving a majority of that growth. And once you dig down into those numbers a little bit, you can see that of that $5.6 billion, 10% of that is made up by physical music, which of course vinyl makes up a majority of. I know there's a big conversation like this that was going on last year, and that was when the Illuminate report came out, and Illuminate had changed how they collected data and how they collected sales data. Well, this is different. This is straight from the Recording Industry Association of America. This is all taken straight from wholesale data. So the way the numbers are compared in this report are first quarter of 2025 versus first quarter of 2024. So if you look at the vinyl record sales for this year, so you get 22.1 million units sold for a revenue of $456.9 million, compared to first quarter last year of 22.3 million units for $461.4 million. So yes, there is a slight drop in there. It's a 1% loss. That's pretty flat if you look at it overall. I mean, it's a big number, it's a big unit sold. It's a big dollar amount sold, especially if you look at the CD sales numbers over that same period. I mean, CD sales this year, 11.7 million units for a total of 108.1 million, compared to 15 million units sold last year for 139.1 million. That's a 22% drop in a year. So I'd say comparing how CD sales are now versus vinyl record sales, I'd say the 1% drop for vinyl records is not that big of a deal, I don't think. Even though there are some people out there that are making it sound like the sky is falling for records. And the big driving factor of that, of course, has got to be price. I'm seeing a lot of new releases for, around $40 to $45 now, which is just absolutely insane for a new release, considering that, just a year and a half ago, they were like $30, $35. And yes, there are still some new releases you can get for under $30. And I would say the average is somewhere in the neighborhood of $35 to $40, but I'm seeing some new releases come out that are closer to $50, which is just insane when you can pick up a CD for a fraction of that, which is why I'm kind of surprised to see such a big drop in those CD sales numbers. But when you look at the growth that music streaming services have had, that's where people are going. People aren't going from records to CDs. They're going from records back to streaming. So as far as like the vinyl revival goes, I think it's just fine. I think the sales numbers are still going to go. This is still going to be going on. I don't think growth in records are going to go anywhere. I think that by the end of the year, they're going to end up in the positive. I think we're going to see another year of gains for records. I think the years where we're going to see like double-digit gains overall for record sales year after year after year, I think those years are probably gone. So I think what's more likely is we're going to see these smaller growths in record sales, somewhere in the neighborhood, I'd say, of 3, maybe 6%, maybe 7%, if we're really lucky by the end of the year, which I think is probably a more natural growth for the industry than the explosion that we've seen over the last, 10, 15 years. But on one hand, where you can see where a 1% loss is not that big of a deal for the recording industry overall, I think where it does hurt is record stores, because they're not working with big margins when it comes to new releases and new albums. So when they're having an increase in operating costs, if we're seeing a drop in overall sales, even a 1% drop in sales, can be really huge and really detrimental to small independent record stores. And that's where it kind of becomes a double-edged sword for a lot of people out there, where people have less disposable income now, so it's hard to buy new albums. So it's a lot easier for people to go online and hunt for a good deal, which is generally your Amazons, your Walmarts, your big box stores, your big retailers are able to get these albums at a cheaper price and sell them at a much smaller margin than your local record store can. Having less disposable income, it's easier for people to do that than to go to your record store and pay more money. But it's still important for us to support your local record stores whenever you can, because there's a lot of us out there that remember a day when a lot of those record stores just kind of disappeared. I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, just in my area, there's probably, just off the top of my head, I'd say probably maybe 8 to 10 different stores I could go to, independent record stores, smaller chain record stores that just don't exist anymore. I have very small options now. I'm down to maybe like 3 or 4 within a 45-minute drive from me. So I don't want to get to a point where we start losing all these stores again. So as much as I know it's difficult for people to go out there and support your local record stores with the cost of albums, whenever you can, do whatever you can. I feel like, around this time every year we have this conversation of like, oh my gosh, the vinyl revival is over. And then miraculously by the end of the year, sales make a rebound and the whole thing changes again. I'm sure it's going to be that same way this year also. But we always run the risk of eventually getting to the point where, it doesn't rebound by the end of the year. And to be honest, I think once we get to the point where that happens and we have a couple of down years, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing overall for the industry. Yes, it's going to hurt independent record stores, which, like I said before, is the backbone of the vinyl record industry. And having a slowdown or a small cutback in sales, I think, is what's going to help bring the cost of records back down, which is ultimately what really needs to happen, because we can't get to the point where we're all spending, $50+ on records, because it's not going to happen. It's something that's just not sustainable. And I'm sure a lot of people, just like me, have noticed when you go to the record stores, there seems to be less people at stores now than there have been over the last couple of years. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a change in sales numbers. That could just be an indicator that more people might be buying more online, or it could just be a complete coincidence that you're just not seeing more people in stores. One of the things I've said over the last couple of years are younger generations are going to be the big driver in growth in both records and CD sales. I think for the most part, we're still kind of seeing that, but I've even kind of noticed a slowing down in that when I'm at the record store also. But I think there's so many different factors that could play a role in that, and it could be something, it could be nothing at all. But there's also a lot of other information in this Record Industry Association of America report, so I'll put a link down below if you want to go check it out yourself. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of this. What do you guys think of the growth in record sales or in CD sales? Because like I said, look at the numbers from the Recording Industry Association of America. Record sales seem to be kind of flat. CD sales have really kind of dropped off over the last year, or at least the first quarter of this year. I guess it does kind of correlate a little bit with what I'm seeing in stores. Like I said, I was seeing similar numbers last year. And by the end of the year, the sales numbers rebound, and we end up having kind of a more of a normal year. But still, when you look back at the sales numbers last year, I don't think anyone can say that they were the same as what they were the year before. I think we're definitely seeing a slowing down that's happened over the last, I'd say, year to year and a half. My question is that going to continue, or are we going to kind of see this more like leveling out of that? Because judging off of just the units sold so far this year, I mean, there's still a high demand for records out there. Sure, I don't think we're ever going to reach the numbers that were sold, in the 70s and 80s. But I think just reaching like a nice happy, like leveling off somewhere, nice happy medium, like a plateau, and just kind of stay there, I think would be good for the industry, good for record stores, and really good for the end consumer also, because it helped level off some of these price increases we've seen over the last couple of years. This is one of those topics that's very specific to the area you live in, but let me know what you guys think. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.